Welcome to the Student Pilot Podcast. My name is Simon Callis, a flight school owner. Each week, myself and my guests will be talking all things flight training and beyond to help inspire, motivate and support you on your journey to becoming a private or commercial pilot. Welcome back to the Student Pilot Podcast. Today we have Claire back on the podcast, our head of training, and she's come dressed as a Santa's elf or something.
It's Christmas.
Without being rude, Claire, can you give us a flash?
Oh, go on then.
There you go.
Hey!
And you lot didn't know what to expect, did you? So if you're watching this on YouTube, Claire has come very Christmassy with a flashing Santa hat. So today's episode, we're going to be talking about what we call the exam trap. This is leaving your theory exams too late in your training. Now, we have a couple of exams which we mandate as a school, don't we, before solo?
Yes, we do. It's not mandated legally, but for most flying schools, actually, you'll find that certainly one of them is required before your first solo.
Yeah, so we do comms and air law, but we see a proportion of students who do that to tick a box and then don't do any more exams until they get all the way to the end of the course. It doesn't happen very often. But you know who you are. There are a couple on our radar, aren't there, at the minute? So it's not a large chunk of people, but we do have a couple of students at the minute who are in this trap, and it's causing them problems now because they're having to continue to fly to keep their currency whilst trying to catch up on their revision. So we're going to talk about the potential problems that this can cause, but first I thought it might be handy to recap on what the exams actually are and what the timelines are.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got the 9 exams, haven't we?
Yeah.
Air law, communications, operational procedures, we've then got navigation, human performance and limitations, aircraft general knowledge, principles of flight, flight planning and performance, and meteorology as well to top off the 9.
One thing to be aware of, if you haven't sat an exam yet, there is a 2-part registration process. If you go onto the CAA website, there's a portal called CELMA, CELLMA, where you need to register. You provide your identification. It costs about 15 quid, I think, from memory, something like that, to register. Once you've registered, which can take a few days to come back to you, then you need to fill in your exam provider on there. There's a list of exam providers, so you tick off a school you're going to do your exams with there. The school is then contacted and has to authorise you to sit exams with them. That's an electronic process, so it can take up to 10 working days. So please do not turn up at your school expecting to take an exam without doing this process first.
Can I just check something with you?
Yeah.
I think that CELMA is the medical department only. So I think the CAA portal is where you go to sign it all up, and CELMA is within that, and CELMA's the medical section. So you sign up to the CAA portal, and you still pay your £15, whatever it is, and you still have to sign your ID and do all of that jazz, but that's part of the main section.
Okay.
And then within that, there are subsections for theory exams, medical, etc.
So if you haven't done your medical already, you can do that on there as well.
Absolutely. Do the 2 at once, and then you've really got everything sorted early.
So we'll put links to the CAA website in the show notes anyway, so you know where to go. In terms of revising, most people that we deal with tend to use books to start off with. So there's the AFE and the Pooley's revision books. They're quite good. Videos, we've got online videos on almat.co.uk, and we do have a free PPL question bank called PPL Expert. Links are in the show notes. So if you're looking for something to revise with, PPL Expert is free. The videos are $9.99 a month on a subscription, so you can just cancel them when you're finished. So, timeline then. So you've got 18 months, isn't it, from when you start your first exam?
Yeah, so when you first start your PPL training, most people will just want to get into the flying, and that's great. But at some stage, you're going to be asked to get on and start sitting these exams. And frankly, the earlier the better, especially if you're on a condensed fast-track course, the types of the like that we run here. So the moment you sit that first exam and you pass it, you've then got 18 months to finish all the other 9 exams, which sounds like you've got loads of time and everything else, and you have. But if you're on a fast track course, of course, and you're trying to get it done in 6 months, you don't really have the 18 months. So it's a little bit difficult. And then once you've done all of the exams within that 18-month period, you've then got a further 2 years to finish your PPL skills test off. Yeah.
One caveat to that is that you get 4 attempts per subject. So if you fail a subject 3 times, we are mandated, we have to do additional training with you. If you fail 3 times, your 4th attempt is your last attempt. Okay. If you fail 4 times on the same subject, you have to resit all of the exams, regardless of whether you've passed all of the other 8. Okay.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So I like to think of it as you only get 3 attempts. And if you fail those 3 attempts, then we have to write off to the CA and say, look, this is what's happened. And then they will then give you the last chance saloon, if you like. So it's your last chance to really sort it out. So really, I like to think of it as 3 attempts only, because you don't want to leave it all to that 4th attempt. That would be horrendous.
Absolutely.
But we do have to get written permission from the CAA in order for you to sit that 4th exam. So it's worth not even getting there, frankly.
Absolutely. So these are the main reasons leaving your theory exams too late is such a bad idea. So first one is, we alluded to this earlier on, that some schools require certain exams to be done as a prerequisite to solo flight. So you certainly don't want to get up to first solo and find out that you need exams doing and be prevented by doing your first solo for that reason. Secondly, you need the complete range of theory knowledge really by nav stage, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, mostly I would agree with you. I mean, the reason that most flight schools will mandate things like air law is that when you go on your first solo, you really need to know those basic rules of the airs just to get you around, even if it's only one circuit or, you know, whatever your flight training school allows you to fly. You've got to think of those outside the box moments. What happens if there's somebody that bursts a tyre on the runway whilst you're on the first solo? What happens if somebody has an issue and you have to stop transmitting because there's a mayday or a pan calling process and all of those sorts of things. And so that air law exam, that first one, really gives you the preparation to feel a lot more comfortable when you're doing that first solo. So you end up, you know, in a situation where you're feeling confident, and it's not just your flying that's good. You've got that background knowledge as well to keep you going.
But I mean, on our fast track courses, we've got basically they're scheduled to complete all of the exams by nav, aren't they?
They are, yeah. And there's good reason for that, because when you get out onto the navigation side of things, you've basically done all of your basic flight training. You can fly a plane. You're a pilot already. You don't have the skills test under your belt yet, but you know, we're sending you out on your own into the great blue yonder to go to places A, B and C and wherever it is it's going. So you need to have all of that background knowledge in the back of your mind, and it's there to help you prepare for those flights, to make you safe and competent. Some
people leave Met to the last minute, for example, and you need to make those weather decisions in order that you can go on these solo flights. And granted, your instructor is going to say, look, you know, your decision is wrong. If it's wrong, you cannot go because the weather is this. But you know, you're effectively, if you've only done air law and comms, you're flying a plane around a route without all of that knowledge.
Well, that's the thing. You're falling into the trap where you're expecting the instructors to make the decision for you. You know, as a pilot, you are responsible. The license is giving you the responsibility to make those decisions to keep other people and yourself safe and everything else. And the only way you're going to learn that is by doing it yourself from a very early stage. So you get those exams done so that you can attempt to make those decisions, or at least make them in conjunction with your instructor, rather than just saying, hello, it's me on the phone, shall I come in today or not, because I actually don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It's not helpful.
It's not at all. And even down to stuff like mass and balance, route planning, takeoff and landing performance calculations, all of that stuff. If you don't know how to do that...
Well, you're not a pilot, are you?
You shouldn't be doing that.
You can't. No.
You can't. So that's one of the reasons. The next one is, if you leave all your exams till later on in the course, you're likely to have a bottleneck in your training. So there is at least 2 people I know of at the minute who are flying for currency and costing themselves lots of money whilst they revise for these extra exams.
This is exactly the worst case scenario, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You get to the end of the course and you think, well, I'll just get my flying out of the way and then I'll sit all the exams afterwards. When what actually happens is that by the end of the course, as flight instructors, we are preparing you and gearing you up to be the best that you can be for your skills test and beyond. Yeah, so you should be right at the top level of your game by the time you get to the end of that training. And all of a sudden, you've then got to stop because you haven't sat your exams. So then you go away and you're spending, I don't know, however long you're spending doing the exams. They're not easy exams to pass. They're not, you know, they're not a walk in the park. They require understanding, time, revision, practice questions, and all these sorts of things, and to a certain degree some ground and school with your flight instructors and things as well, to really get the good marks off of the exam system, and that takes time.
Yeah.
And that time then degrades your flying ability, and you're either then continuing just to fly for currency, like you've said, so that you don't go off the boil and you don't degrade in performance, or you end up not flying and you end up still having to do all of those hours later on, because you've then got to build yourself back up to those levels that you'd achieved weeks beforehand. It's such a shame.
Whichever way you look at it, it's more time, more money.
It is, yeah.
And
it needn't be that case if you just planned yourself properly.
So please don't do that. So running out of time is the other one. We haven't seen this many times either, but there are people who take too long to do their exams, lose track of their timeline and realise they've gone over the 18 months and then have to redo it.
Again, a real shame. So, and I wonder if that's partly to do with just not quite understanding the expectation when you start, the whole 18 months to get your exams done. You know, if you've not been told that by your flight training provider, that's a shame. Or if you've not done the sort of the research yourself to know really what you're getting yourself into.
I mean, that's why we cover it in the inductions, isn't it? But
it is, yeah.
But exactly. I think people do generally, especially if you're on like a learn at your own pace where you're flying once a month or whatever,
well, that's harder, of course, because life gets in the way, doesn't it? You've got families and things and money to make from jobs and things, and so it can be quite difficult to try and squeeze in what is, a very intensive course, learning to fly. It doesn't matter whether you're doing LAPL or PPL, it's intensive, it requires a lot of time, concentration. So trying to make that work, sort of life balance, if you like, work in the favour of the PPL and the LAPL courses can be quite a tough challenge. But again, that requires planning from your part before you start and undertake all of these things, isn't it, really?
And again, that's cost, because the exams, currently 50 quid a sit-in or whatever it's. Yeah. So 450 quid to do them on the first attempt. If you keep failing them or you have to resit them because you run out of time, all of a sudden you're into 900 quid.
Yeah.
Just on
very
exams.
Quickly. Yeah.
So don't do that. It is planning, isn't it? If you plan for it and keep tabs on it, it's not going to happen. So we sort of recommend, if you're doing it intensively, you want to get an exam done every 2 weeks, really.
If you can. I mean, some of the big meaty exams, like your navigation, maybe some of the meteorology and things, they can take a little bit longer just because there's quite a lot of course material to get through. But things like communications, human performance, air law and things, they can all be done in 1 or 2 weeks if you knuckle down and put your mind to it. Anything's achievable, isn't it, really? Yeah,
absolutely. And the main thing is don't struggle by yourself as well, because I think a lot of people struggle with these exams. They fail, but they don't ask for help when they need it. And everyone's happy to help in most schools.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's what we're here for, isn't it? As flight instructors, our job is to help you guys get through your PPL or your LAPL, whatever it is you're studying. So if you're finding it tough, it doesn't matter how stupid the question is, come and ask us.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's pretty much it, I think, isn't it? Is we've covered all the angles why you shouldn't do it. So please, if you're in this predicament at the minute, just get it done right. You cannot go for a skills test without these exams. Don't make excuses. Don't put it off. You're only, causing problems for yourself, and ask for help if you need it. Okay? I
would say if your flight training school or flight training provider doesn't give you a timeline, then go away and make your own up. So say, I'm going to take 2 weeks to do an air law exam. I'm going to do another 2 weeks to do my comms, and I'm going to do them every 2 weeks, and I'm going to aim to be finished by this date. Put it down in the diary, put it in your phone, set an alarm off every couple of weeks. With a week to go, you're going to sit your exam next week. And it's there in your mind all the time then, isn't it? And just pushing you and just keeping you on the right track.
Absolutely. So like we said, if anyone needs any help with that, we have got links to PPL Expert and the videos in the show notes. If your school doesn't offer ground school, feel free to reach out. We can do some ground school with you, no problem. But please get those exams done. Don't waste money on extra flight training, extra exams that you do not need, that you could plan in advance. So I hope you found this episode helpful anyway, and I hope you enjoyed Claire's flashing hat. And have a good Christmas, everybody, and we'll see you in the new year.
Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas. And don't forget to like and subscribe and leave us a review. We'd appreciate it. Thank you. If you like this episode, please like, subscribe and ding the bell to receive notifications of the next episode.